So in honor of Dyslexia Awareness Month, could you help us to dispel some of those myths today?
Yes,
Still think about, yeah.
there are some really pervasive myths. I think in part because the pervasiveness of those myths are part because um, we as a society profession started thinking about dyslexia well over 100 years ago, where people started taking note of readers who, for seemingly mysterious reasons, struggled just with reading and writing. Most of these people who have dyslexia are at least quite competent and sometimes extraordinarily competent and skillful at other things. So we had lots and lots of theories and opinions about dyslexia before we really got the technology and the research ability to figure out what was really going on. And that technology and research has really been available to us for only about 20 years. So we've had many, many decades of theories. And probably the most pervasive theory that is incorrect makes so much sense, because when you look at what the manifestation of dyslexia, it was first labeled over 100 years ago as word blindness. It just seemed something must be wrong with their eyes, but only when they look at print. Their eyes seem to be fine, everything else seems to be fine, but when they look at print, something's wrong. So it was, and that really does seem like a pretty good description. So there was this notion that dyslexia is an eye-based disorder. It's a vision-based disorder. And that is probably what people still think when they think of dyslexia, when they hear in just popular press or on the internet or something about dyslexia. Something's wrong with those people's eyes and print. That's a misunderstanding. It's a myth about dyslexia. It's not, as we thought for so long, an eye-based disorder. It is actually a disorder, a neurological, neurobiological, it's brain-based physical, if you will, physical manifestation of the brain's inability to process the components of speech, the sound level of speech, not just spoken language, because most people with dyslexia can process and spoken language, but it's the taking it down to the word level and the sounds within words, which is a relatively new discovery. So it's a better thought of as an auditory based, but auditory processing based, not the ability to hear. Although if you have hearing acuity issues, children who are deaf or severely hearing impaired often have difficulty learning to read that mirrors dyslexia. So we have learned it's not an eye-based disorder. Another pervasive myth is that children with dyslexia reverse letters or write words backwards or mirror writing. And that, like many myths, has some basis in fact, that a lot of children with dyslexia do reverse letters. There's a lot of letters in the English alphabet, Spanish alphabet, that are mirror images of each other. And find a lot of people, though, find it very difficult. A lot of young early learners have difficulty with B and D and P and Q, and sometimes M and N, or U and N, and letters that just look so much like each other. The mythology of that is that is an indicator of dyslexia. It is an indicator of early reading development. Our students with dyslexia stay in that early development stage for much, much longer. They have a great deal of difficulty becoming skillful readers. So you see reversed letters and backwards writing and that kind of thing well into the grade levels. They may still do that at grades 3 and 4, where most students who may have done that in kindergarten and first grade have their brains have sorted that out and they figured that out. So it's a universal, no, not universal, that's too broad, but many early readers have that difficulty. It is not an indicator of dyslexia. Another myth I hear very frequently is that more boys than girls have dyslexia. that has shown to be not true. Again, when we weren't really as sure as we are today what it really was, more boys were being identified as having dyslexia for varieties of reasons. We now know, though, that gender, IQ, language, there are not indicators of dyslexia. Those are not, those don't predispose you to dyslexia. There may be still to this day slightly more boys that get identified as having dyslexia, but we have confirmed that it's not gender-based concern.